Welcome to 28storms.com. This is your tropical weather update for Tuesday, June 7th, 2011. This is the latest 1 p.m. tropical weather outlook from the National Hurricane Center. They are currently still highlighting 94L Invest, or the tropical low still located in the northwest Caribbean, although their chances of tropical cyclone formation over the next 48 hours have now decreased to 10%. At this time yesterday, the odds of that happening were 50%, according to the National Hurricane Center. Here is an overall look at the Atlantic Basin, and as you can see across much of the central and western Caribbean, 94L Invest remains widely disorganized and ill-defined at this current time. We still have a weak low-level circulation located just to the northeast of Honduras, but as a result of southwest wind shear, much of the convection associated with this low-pressure center has been stretched out and elongated from west to east from as far as Honduras all the way to the Puerto Rico region and into the central Atlantic Ocean. You can also see on the latest infrared that there's really no organized area of central convection. There's little pockets here and there, but certainly nothing very organized at the current time. And as we look at the latest mid to upper level water vapor imagery, we can really see why this is not beginning to organize. We still have that persistent upper low that's been totally dampening the chances of tropical development. It's still located over here in the southeast Gulf of Mexico. And out ahead of that upper low, we're still seeing very strong wind shear. This is the latest SIMS wind shear analysis, and between this upper level ridge located over the southwest Caribbean and the upper level trough located over the southeast Gulf of Mexico, we have very strong southwest winds aloft in excess of about 50 knots. Therefore, it's really no surprise that 94L looks as ill-defined as it currently does. This is a closer look on the visible imagery, and as we can see, the low-level turning is located around here, and it's highly exposed due to those southwest winds aloft. And here is just a quick look at the enhanced infrared. Overall, we can also make out what's been going on over the past week using the latest precipitable water animation. As you can see, our low-level circulation really tried to get going near Jamaica, and it's ever so slightly beginning to drift off toward the west-northwest or northwest. Earlier in the week, there was a possibility that this low could strengthen a bit more over the central Caribbean, and thus it would feel the impacts of this central Atlantic trough and possibly turn out to sea fairly rapidly. But instead, this low has remained fairly weak, therefore allowing a subtropical ridge to build off the United States east coast and the immediate coastal areas of the southeast. Thus, that ridge is going to impinge on this storm and allow for a continued northwest motion into the southeast Gulf of Mexico. Here is the latest 12Z GFS forecast. This is sea level pressure, and the broad low does not intensify. In fact, all you will see is a very weak surface low reflection making its way into the central Gulf of Mexico, while the mid to upper level components of that low feature get sheared off toward the northeast towards Cuba, Florida, and the Bahamas. All is very weak convection and probably not providing a significant amount of rainfall. We can see this a little bit better using the 850 millibar vorticity analysis. As you can see, the weak low reflection makes it all the way into the central Gulf Coast, while much of the convection and other secondary vorticity maximums continue to be stretched out and shunted off into the northeast or southwest Atlantic Ocean. It looks very unlikely that 94L will ever make a serious run at trying to attain tropical cyclone status. As we look at the latest GFS shear forecast, it maintains the idea that the upper level trough will remain nearly quasi-stationary over much of the southeast Gulf of Mexico through the next 7 days. In this type of environment, there will be no chance of tropical cyclone formation in this area. The latest 12Z Canadian model shows much of the same, with the upper level trough remaining in place throughout the foreseeable future. It should be reassuring to know that none of the dynamical models show any type of intensification at this point, but just for good measure, this is the latest 12Z UK Met model, and the 1008 millibar low is initialized correctly just west of Jamaica. This is now day 1, day 2, day 3. We see that the low is still very weak at 1008 millibars by 72 hours as it begins to head off towards western Cuba. By 96 hours, you really can't even make out where the low pressure center is located in the model, but if we see this weak inverted trough axis near the surface, that's where any surface low would be located. This is by day 4 again, and then by 120 hours or day 5, all we're left with is a very weak remnant low pressure area located just off the west coast of Florida. So, just to summarize, 94L is more ill-defined than it was yesterday, and the odds of this developing into a tropical cyclone are extremely low at this point, and that's all due to the expected forecast or anticipation that the upper-level troughiness over the southeast Gulf of Mexico will continue. And as the storm moves into the southeast Gulf, it will only get ripped to shreds even more, and if anything, we might see a naked low-level circulation over the central or southeast Gulf of Mexico, while most or much of its convection gets drawn out into the western Atlantic. The rest of the Atlantic basin remains fairly quiet at this time. The only other notable area of interest today is Tropical Depression 1E. This is just beginning to develop over in the eastern Pacific. This is the latest visible, and also this is the latest infrared. Obviously, the storm is still a bit disorganized, with much of the convection located just west of the low-level circulation. But as you can see, the National Hurricane Center does expect this depression to quickly develop into a tropical storm by 5 a.m. on Wednesday, and down the road we do expect this to become a minimal hurricane down the road in the 3 to 5 day range. And fortunately, the current expectations are for this storm to stay off the coast of Mexico, but as always, we'll keep a close watch on things. And the latest model consensus tends to agree with the official track that this will remain south and west of Mexico. So thanks again for visiting 28storms.com today. We'll have another daily tropical weather video update available by tomorrow afternoon.